Hey everyone, Christian here, and I thought this might be an interesting vlog, and I'm going to kind of title it with what happens when you cut the trunk completely off, or the crown completely off a palm. So this is going to be a good specimen to work with because this is a clumping palm with trunks cut off at different ages and different sizes. So I'm going to kind of start with the obvious, and that is if you cut the crown off a palm to the point where the meristem and basically where the spears start to form and come out, the palm is going to die. There's really nothing can be done. There are very few palms that can actually come back from that. Some clumping palms can do that. They will clump a little bit more because they still have roots underneath from some of the offsets, and they will go ahead and shoot off more offsets, but the main trunk will always be dead. And in a solitary palm, it will always die. So unlike a regular tree, a dicot where you cut off the bark, the tree will die. The inside of the palm is where everything lives. So if you cut it off, if you cut off the trunk of a palm, like the edges, then you will the palm will still stay alive. You can see that if you rub. You see a lot of trunks that have like a lot of scarring on them, and they're still going. So that's kind of shows you that difference between a palm and a tree. So again, a palm is not a tree. Most of you that watch the vlog know that. Some of you who may be new to palms may not know that, but yeah, a palm is not actually a tree. It's a monocot. It is a large piece of grass. I just imagine we live in a small world and there's giants over us that treat them like they're grass to them. So these main trunks here are dead, and they've been dead since they were cut off. They were basically cut off because they were near death. This is a monocarpic palm. This is Caryotomitis, a clumping fishtail palm, and it is basically once it grows a trunk, puts out some flowers and seeds, the trunk will die. So these were warranted to be cut off. So I wasn't here when this was all done, so I'm just going off what I believe happened. So if you can see here, there's a bunch of other clumps that are coming up here that are doing just fine. This one here is putting out new leaves, and basically this palm used to be 15-20 feet tall, and now it's barely over the roof line, so it's probably 8-10 feet. It's probably more like 20-22 feet tall because it's at least twice the size of its current state. So we're going to back up a little bit. There's just a lot of palm here, so I just want to kind of get everything in. You can see how large this is. An old clump, probably 20 plus years old. So the clumps that were not cut were obviously not affected. They're growing normally. They might even be growing faster because there's no more energy being put towards these main trunks, which are now dead, and they were sawed off. So now let's get to the trunks that were cut off, but they weren't cut off at the apical meristem. So they're down here, and these right here, you can see that they were cut near where the new spear emerges, near the meristem, but they were not cut all the way through. So these are actually growing out. You can see it's kind of growing out like a piece of celery almost, or a vegetable that kind of grows through being chopped. And it's kind of interesting to see that. You see that basically there's these 5 or so trunks, maybe more, and this one was obviously cut right at the meristem because that first leaf came out, was all funky, and you can see it has this almost like a dwarf mutated look about it. And these other ones are kind of doing just fine. They're growing right through it, and that's why sometimes when you cut, if you really need to trim up a palm, it's best to take off the entire trunk, not just the top, because it often will grow back. Cities will often trim back palmettos all the way to the crown, thinking they're going to die, but they won't. They'll grow. You'll see many crowns start to grow right back, like almost like a swirling, effect. You can see all the insides of the trunk kind of rising up out of the cut base. So basically, this has become a 20-foot clumping palm turned into a 10-foot clumping palm, and with a bunch of rotting trunks in the middle. So it does still do the job of kind of putting like a corner place in where the house is, but if you look at it closely, it really is not that pretty of a look about it. So probably wasn't the best idea. Better to these don't have strong roots about them. They really can be dug up relatively easily or torn. If you take a truck and wrap a chain around the whole thing, it actually will come right down. These don't do well in hurricanes, so it might have been good that they were cut because eventually a hurricane would knock it down because of its weak roots. I don't like to kill palms, but when the main trunks are dying, sometimes it's better to just let it, let it all go. This one here actually is kind of interesting. Looks like it was partially trimmed up, but it wasn't chopped at the trunk. So still has a few fronds going. That's good to see. But you can actually see a lot of the color in a fishtail. You can see the bronze tomentum there, and this kind of like whitish, like real bronzy white bronze color that that occurs on the base of these petioles that you don't get to see very. You get to see them in other species, but not Midas. So you can kind of see just how many trunks there are. And this is probably 3 or 4 clumps when it was sold, and they'll do that. A lot of nurseries will throw like 3 or 4 clumping palms into a pot, so they'll clump even more sooner, if that makes sense. So just so they get more hedging look at a sooner in a shorter amount of time. So yeah, that's going to be about it for the clumping fishtail. One thing I do want to mention about Caryotas, and it's almost unique to this genus, is that they are, I talked about pinnate, bipinnate, pinnate, palmate, and costopalmate palms. Now, Caryotas are pinnate, but they're actually bipinnate. So they actually have one pinnate running in this direction, right, from the base of the frond there, and then they have this pinnate coming off. So they're actually multi-pinnate. They're actually bipinnate, but they're also multi-pinnate because it's more than one. But they're bipinnate because they have pinnate in 2 directions. So it is interesting because I can't think of another genus that does this, but there are cycads that do this, and they're called the multi-pinnate types, and they're quite desirable. I think that's what brings a lot of the desirability to Caryotas in particular. They have that kind of almost like a fern-like look because of the bipinnate structure of the leaf. So anyway, I don't leave that there. I hope you enjoyed the vlog. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to see many more palm reviews, palm talks. I have live streams. If you hit the bell notification, I go live a lot. You can talk to me about plants if you want, palms in particular. If you have any questions about Caryotas, chopping off the trunks of palms, or anything related to the video, go ahead and leave it down below, and I'll get back to everyone as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.